So, hello, people. Welcome back to the Tech of Tomorrow podcast, the podcast where we believe that the tech of the future are the humans building the future and behind the tech. Before we begin, before we go on with our guest, as usual, please remember follow the podcast on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. Leave a comment. If you are on YouTube, the channel is fairly new, needs more subscribers. So please do subscribe and do leave a comment and do hit the like button because it does give the algorithm a nice boost, and this video will get shown to more people, and I will be able to bring cooler and cooler guests to the podcast. And talking about cool guests, our guest today is Jörg Hensen. He is a former military member. He is the CEO of GPORTAL, a game server provider for over 90 games, including Minecraft, Valheim, and V Rising. They have 14 global server locations and serve 10 million players monthly in over 40 countries. So, with that intro, hello, Jörg. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Sebastian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, grateful you took the time. We connected through LinkedIn, so we had an intro call. Glad to have you here. I think we can get started with talking about G Portal. How did you get started in the gaming industry, basically?
And that's indeed a fun story. So honestly, I don't have any gaming background. So I was working as a chief sales officer in a software company. I was working as a consultant, several engagements on C-level, but not close to gaming. And then via the network, I got approached if I could imagine to join G-Portal, yeah, and be part of the growth story. And that was so interesting to me that I did it roughly 2.5 years ago. And honestly, it was the best decision. I'm very happy. It's a great company, great working culture, and together with the people, I think, yeah, we are writing a cool success story so far.
So you are not a gamer at all, even after 2 years at G Portal. Are you a gamer or have you not become a gamer?
Nah, I honestly, I'm still lacking with my skills. So, yes, I'm playing a little bit together with my kids, and I'm always asking my sons for advice if it comes to specific gamer questions. But yeah, you will not become such an let's say passionate gamers if you start playing with, I don't know, above 40. So, but yeah, of course, I do it from time to time, but not on the same level like my colleagues.
So what was the biggest challenge in entering a company in an industry that was new to you
Mm.
as the CEO?
I think basically business is business, yeah, and I think the processes, the structures you need to establish, the goals you have are always kind of similar, yeah. The most challenging, but I really loved it and I'm still loving it, was to understand the market. It is really you need to provide the best game experience to the community. And yeah, I had to learn what a game experience or what game experience means. Yeah, talking about different game genres, talking about, yeah, when do the people need what. That was all new to me. But a great journey to learn that, honestly.
Yes, I do agree, right? Something people ask me often is if I have an exclusivity in the companies I consult, and I always tell them being a business strategist means that I need to know business, and
Sure.
business pretty much follows the same principles across most industries, if not all industries. So I do agree. So what was difficult in understanding this market? What do you think is unique about this specific market you're serving?
I think what is really unique is that you are facing specific game hypes, yeah. So that means it's always very difficult to forecast which game will really be a success and which game maybe not. And then if you are in a kind of a hype, means the whole community wants to play that game, you really need to do everything to provide the hardware resources to the people. Yeah. But for many games, this is always, let's say, 1, 2, 3 months, and then the people are done with the content. And that does not mean that they start hating your product, but they are churning because, yeah, the passion is over for the game, the hype is over. And they are coming back maybe for the next game, but this is something very specific. You will not have that in other businesses. That you have such an incredible growth, and after months you have another churn because it's simply played through. Yeah? This is, I would say, really something very special in our market.
Are you expecting a big uptick in demand for a specific game next year? For example, we know that GTA 6 is coming
Mm.
out,
Mm.
probably. Do you think you will need to have that game there to serve those players?
GTA is an specific topic, yeah. But you always have to understand, not all multiplayer games are offering private servers. So there are only specific, let's say, games where you really have the opportunity to offer private servers. So and for instance, if you go and talk about Fortnite or whatever, yeah, this is not our game. That will never be our game because this is nothing for private servers at the end. Yeah, private servers um, are needed from people who want to play with their own community this specific multiplayer game. And there you mentioned that in the beginning, we're talking about Valheim, Conan, Rust. We are talking about Minecraft and other things, but not about this titles you mentioned earlier. So this is something where our business development comes into place and needs to talk to the studios, needs to discuss if maybe they change their strategy and offer private server. This is something, yeah, some part of our core skills, talking with the studios at the early beginning, far before far before we have the final launch then.
So, where was G Portal when you first entered the company, and how much has it grown since?
Yeah, I would say the big growth of GPORTAL and probably also other companies in this branch started, yeah, with the beginning of the Corona crisis, and that was also for GPORTAL a point where they really accelerated, and that was even before I started. And since I joined in 2022, we, let's say, proceeded this growth. Yeah, so we are growing year over year. Um, I would say significantly, and I strongly assume that we will proceed with that also in the next years. Yeah.
So, what would you say is the challenge in generating new business in an industry like this? Because it's a completely different business model from many other traditional industries. So, how do you go about it?
And I think in general, it's a product what really passionate gamers need. They needed it already 20 years ago, and they will probably also need it in the next year. So that means the core product will remain the same. Yeah, meaning you need to provide game clouds to communities which want to play, yeah, a game in their own environment. So, but of course, you always have to adjust your product to the, let's say, to new to new developments in the market. Yeah. So we are always working on adjusting our product, make it better, make it more easy. I think maybe the the people are changing a little bit their mindset. So it's more like years ago, people maybe loved more configurating, playing around with the servers. I think today you need to provide a product which is maximum easy. Yeah, just like one click and it works. So this is maybe a change. Maybe it's a question of generations. I don't know. And of course, you need to adjust your product, but the key product will remain the same. I'm quite sure.
Do you see do you see the game adoption, the amount of gamers increasing, especially in the coming years, especially thanks to technologies like virtual reality?
Difficult could be, yeah. Yeah, it's a very good question. So I personally I personally don't believe that much in virtual reality and all this stuff, but of course, there are, let's say, developments in the industry, in the market, which go in this direction. Um, I would honestly not fully focus on that, but yeah, could be.
And what are your plans for the company? Where do you want to take GPORTAL in the next 5 years?
Now we are ambitious, of course. For us, the vision is clearly to be the biggest provider for private servers, multiplayer private servers in the world. And beside that, of course, we also want to, let's say, extend our offers for game studios, yeah, providing servers, bare metal hardware resources also for game studios, meaning B2B. This is the two big, let's say, um, visions we are following.
Now, a question about your career, because you mentioned you were a chief sales officer
Hmm.
and you did work as a consultant. So, what is the biggest adaptation you had to make in going from chief sales officers to CEO? What,
Mm.
how do you feel those roles are different, and what are the challenges of each role?
I think being CEO means being fully responsible. So it's a much more comprehensive role. Yeah. So if you are responsible for sales, um, easily spoken, you're just taking care for sales and revenues. Yeah. You don't prioritize execution. You don't care for operations, for margins in the very first moment. You just want to push the sales because sales is finally marching a front for a company. Yeah, and of course, if you are in a more comprehensive role, you have to think, okay, what about my cash flow? What about execution of the product of the deal? So it's a much broader responsibility at the end of the day. Yeah, and I would say this is the main difference.
And how did you find it to become a leader of people? Because that's another key aspect of the role as a CEO. You need to lead your teams, you need to
Mm.
keep them accountable. How was that transition?
Yeah, okay. In my personal career, I was always responsible, or I've been always responsible for people. So my now I served 14 years in the German military. So and in the officer training, I would say you get very fantastic basics how to lead, how to guide people, and not meaning behaving like Major Payne, but just being responsible for adults, being responsible for people, something you learn. And these basics you will never forget, and it helps you, of course, for several roles also you have in your later career.
How else has the military experience impacted you in your daily life and current role?
I think what really helps you is analytics. Yeah. So if I don't know, you receive an information, you maybe it's just a rumor, you don't you don't get into panic. Yeah. So you start analyzing the situation, you try to derive several options, courses of actions, and then you decide based on, let's say, a holistic picture of the situation. And this is something you are really trained within the military, and that helps a lot today to better understand situations before you take a decision.
I like that.
Mm.
What is is there something that you particularly like about the gaming industry? And do you see yourself staying in this industry for another 10, 15 years?
You never know what the future brings, but I like the gaming industry, I like the hosting industry, and of course I don't have any plans to change the industry right now. Yeah. You ask what I really like about the industry. So it's a very familiar atmosphere, honestly. Now the people are very passionate. I think that really differs from other industries. If you have a problem, if the customers do have a problem, really the people are always willing to support, no matter which time, no matter which day. And this is very unique. That also helps us, by the way, just giving an example in our support. We have pure gamers there, talking to the people, helping with their issues, and of course, people are happy with that, and you see that finally on Trustpilot and other ratings that yeah, that on our end the people are really passionate to help our customers.
I think that matters a lot, and yes, you do not find that
Yeah.
in many other industries. Which other industries have you worked in before gaming?
Um, Before that, I was working in let's say IoT environments, AI environments, yeah. So selling platforms which connect different data source and gives you also comprehensive data analytics. Um, During my career as a consultant, I was working in the risk assessment consulting, so to say, yeah, with a special focus on security. So always really different branches, which always gives you a new view, extends your experience, and that helps also a lot today. Yeah.
You mentioned you worked in AI.
Mm,
How is AI, if in any way, impacting your specific side of business? A company like GPORTAL, are you
mm.
dealing with AI? Will you be dealing with AI?
Yeah, I think we are standing at the beginning. So I would honestly say AI will probably help us and all other companies the most in support in the future because you can really cover a huge amount of tickets with AI even today. And this is where I see AI with the biggest benefits at the moment. Uh, I'm also a little bit of thinking what maybe impacts it in the development in the future. Yeah, if maybe AI can, I don't know, do the job of several people who today are coding all the stuff. But honestly, I didn't finish my personal assessment on this point. But I'm sure in the next years we will have huge changes, not only in our industry, but also in all other branches in the global market, because AI is a game changer for sure.
Yes, it has been impacting. That's why I asked, because it has been changing so much in every industry. I'm
Mm.
always curious to find out how it is impacting very niche industries like yours. Now, what are your thoughts on AI regulation? Because that's the other topic, and you're probably observing this. You're not
Mm.
implementing AI right now, but you're observing how we are both in Germany, so you're observing how our country and our continent is moving regarding regulation. So how do you see that?
It's it's a good question. So it's always a kind of dilemma. Yeah, on the one hand, you need to have regulations that there is no misusage of personal data, that there is no misuses for any, I don't know, um, abuse cases. But on the other hand, if you over-regulate everything, and that is something we are tending to do in Europe, then you maybe also limit innovation and limit the future. So yes, we need regulations, but you need to be very cautious to what extent you really regulate everything. Uh, Sometimes I guess other regions in the world are much faster with less regulations, and yeah, honestly, I like that how others do it sometimes.
Same. I was having this conversation yesterday on another podcast, and the fact is that probably regulation shouldn't be that generic and should be applied more to specific use cases. Because the
Mm,
moment we start just throwing a blanket of regulation over the technology as a whole, yes, we do protect the people to some extent, but at the same time, we are taking away from users the possibility to explore new features, to have new
exactly.
apps, and
Yeah,
we take away also the ability for from our companies to develop their own version of that thing.
exactly. I fully agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think we can have in Europe an open AI competitor?
Yes, basically yes. But for me, it's always in Germany, everyone is an AI expert. Yeah, 2 years ago they were all Industry 4.0 expert. Then they were all NFT experts. So it's like buzzwords pushing, and everyone is having its statements, and everyone is a big expert. I think if we really want to compete with the leading players in the world, we need to listen to the real experts and not to the fake experts, which are very loud on LinkedIn, other platforms, and social media. Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's why some people call the whole AI hype a bubble because you have all these experts, just like you had in 2015, you had the time of big data, and
Exactly.
everybody was a data expert. And then it turns out that there was too much data to process, and that's why big data didn't have a huge business upside until AI came. And now we can say, well, AI can take care of the big data that our experts couldn't process. So I do
Exactly.
agree. Now, with that, we run into the issue that usually the voice of real experts tends not to be that loud. So finding the experts becomes hard. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's absolutely true, no? So and also you always have to consider if politicians are in the election phase and whatever. So yeah, I think really listening to experts, founding associations, also supporting startups and companies is very important. Yeah, you need to really push innovation. You need to push ideas, and then I'm quite sure we are able to compete with the leading players in the world.
I agree. Probably another thing I've heard that on the stage from speakers on stage at AI events is that maybe in Europe we need more of a risk-taking mindset, both from the side of
Absolutely.
investors and on the side of entrepreneurs. Because if we look at China and the US, those people are not just out working us, they are also out investing us, out risking us.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to take risks. Yeah, it's always a bet, and sometimes you lose, and but other times you win. And uh, let's say the willingness to risk things is something we are lacking at the moment as a European society. I'm absolutely with you. Yeah.
Good. Back to G Portal.
Hmm.
What are the biggest challenges you see in reaching your ambitions for the next years? Is there anything on the horizon that you already know, okay, this is an obstacle we will need to overcome?
Yeah. At the end, you're a little bit dependent on game releases from the big studios. Yeah, and there are years where is it better, and there are years where you have less big game releases. Yeah, and that is something you cannot really impact. Of course, you need to start talking to studios as soon as possible. You need to convince people that private servers absolutely make sense. But at the end, this is something where you are kind of dependent from external factors. You cannot 100% impact that. And this is, I would say, one of the biggest challenges the private server branch is facing. So not only us, also the whole competition.
I guess that's also why you mentioned that you wanted to expand your offering to studios to just solve different problems so that maybe in years when you have less releases, you can still grow by serving the studios in different ways.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, yeah. And I think there are big USPs from our side because you are familiar with the industry. You are familiar, or we are familiar with gaming. That's a big difference to the very expensive, I don't know, hyperscalers and bigger providers. So we can really, let's say, customize our offer. We can really help our customers. And there are so far really cool use cases we have done with studios. And yeah, as said, it's really growing, and we like that. We like to see that also for the next years.
So do you see your competitors more as do you see the hyperscalers as competitors, or do you focus more on the direct competition, meaning companies like Gportal?
It's both, I would say. Yeah, but more the direct competitors and server providers in the market for the specific B2B case. Yeah. Um, if you do a comprehensive market analysis, you also need to consider a hyperscaler, but this is a little bit more far down the road. Yeah.
And how many employees do you have currently?
We are roughly 70 in our company. Yeah, including freelancers.
So what is what have you noticed are the challenges or the the most interesting parts of company culture? How do you maintain a nice culture? How do you shape that? And how do you keep it consistent across several years?
I would say that is one of the biggest challenges we are having as managers. We are 100% remote. Of course, you also have fluctuation. That means people are coming, people are leaving, company is growing. You are not still any longer a startup. So of course, this is also changing culture and mindset. But for us, let's say this core culture of being a kind of a gaming family, we really try to keep that with physical events, online events, with clear rules how we communicate during the day. Yeah, which tools we are using. It starts with simple things like is put the camera on, stuff like that. With feedback talks in all directions. Yeah, so giving feedback to the people, but also receiving feedback what we can maybe change. Yeah, it is a great and no, it's a big challenge at the end of the day, but I would say we are doing that quite well so far. Yeah. For instance, last week we had a big Christmas party, not only with GPORTAL, but also with all colleagues from the group in Prague. So we really invite the people coming to Prague, combining that with workshops, leadership cycles, department workshops, having a nice party, and yeah, just taking the time and spending the time together. And that is, I would say, very, very important.
What's your opinion on, because you mentioned the company is fully remote, right?
Hmm.
So what's your opinion on the fact that, at least I remember in the US, I don't remember if this happens in Germany too, but some of the big companies, including the hyperscalers, have been calling people back to the office.
Mm.
Why do you think that is? And do you think you can maintain productivity and successful culture by being forever fully remote?
Yeah. Um, Personally, I'm absolutely team office. Yeah? I'm almost going to the office every day, but this is my personal choice. I think it in general depends from the industries. There are industries where it makes maybe sense to bring the people back to office, but not our industry. So if I would, I don't know, implement any rule that the people need to come to the office, they would probably immediately leave us. Yeah. So and I don't see that the efficiency is not there. So we are measuring results. Results are there, and I personally don't care if people are in the office or if they're sitting at home. So my answer for us as G Portal, we will always remain a remote company, 100%.
I think it makes sense. Probably, I think the companies that maybe saw this productivity decline during the pandemic related to home office, it is probably because they didn't start out as remote or the culture in the industry doesn't fit remote working. But I have met plenty of cases of companies that are fully remote and
Mm.
everybody just maintains productivity. Also, somebody told me something super interesting, which was we are all adults in a company. So you don't have to be babysitting people for them to work. You should be able to trust your employees with the work they have to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, fully agree. And plus, I would say if you are a lazy guy, an unproductive guy, you will be that in the office, but also at home. You will not change that if you bring a lazy guy from his home to the office. Yeah, no way. And at the end, I think much more important is that you are able to measure productivity. And then you can derive your decisions, and actions and saying, okay, that makes sense. We maybe need to restructure or even hire new people, whatever, but you will not change all that by bringing the people back to office.
How do you measure productivity? Do you have for another CEO listening, right? That is dealing
Mm.
with this. How can somebody at top of a company measure productivity better?
I think you need to have your core KPIs. Yeah, that is very important, and I don't know if you need them daily, weekly, whatever. That is something you need to determine as a manager by yourself. That is very, very crucial. And then for us, in support, I have my goals what concerning ratings like Trustpilot, Google, and so on. We can clearly measure how many tickets are handled by per employee. And this is something you can clearly measure. Same in development. Yeah, if you have a clear roadmap and you set your targets, when you want to achieve what, you can simply measure that on a weekly basis or whenever you want. Also, the same with operations. If you have too many downtimes with all the servers and so on, you need to change something. So I would say it's relatively not easy, but I would say we are on a very good track to really measure productivity and to derive the right actions out of that. Also counts for marketing. No, so you know your conversion rates. You exactly know about the traffic, about the different channels that people are coming from. Yeah, and if you know that, and if you compare that with yeah with the standards, you know how productive you are as a company and how productive your teams are.
What's your marketing focus? Do you do SEO? Do you do paid advertising? How does a company in your industry move when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, we do of course everything, but honestly, the most sales are coming via organic channels. Yeah, people are just needing a server. And yeah, what is very specific for us is we are really focusing on influencers. So trying to work together with social media influencers who play the games, who recommend GPORTAL server. This is something which is important for pure sales, of course, but above that, also for the brand visibility. Yeah, working with the right partners, being present on social media, yeah, and communicating your brand, your product to the market.
So you have people in the team that are dedicated to selecting influencers and keeping an eye on them because there's always new ones, right? So there must
Yeah,
be somebody that knows very well the the influencer market, basically.
exactly. We have a partner management team, and these guys are working with the partners. They are searching for new partners. They are also kicking out partners where we maybe don't have a fit. So we have our partner programs, and that works quite good so far.
Good. Listen, 2025 is upon us. Actually, by the time people listen to this, it will be
Mm.
2025. So
Yeah.
what is the thing you are looking forward the most in 2025? Is there any company milestone you got coming? Is there any product launch, anything you're expecting that you're excited about for the next year?
Yeah, we have one, two products which I cannot announce yet now, where I'm really looking forward because it will be the next milestone for us. Yeah, I'm talking here about specific game titles. And of course, we saw a good 2024, and we want to proceed this success story. Yeah? We want to show that there's not only 1 or 2 years having success. We want to show that this is a sustainable success story, and that's why I'm really looking forward to 2025. Yeah? And we all are passionate, we are all ambitious, and yeah, following our vision, we are really looking forward to 2025.
Great. Listen, um, I think we're closing in on wrapping up the show. So, is there
Mm.
anything, a message you have for your audience or for any potential client that might listen to this, find this on your profile, and reach this point in the podcast? Do you have a message for them?
I think if there are any questions out there regarding the industry, maybe also regarding my personal experience, just reach out to me via LinkedIn. That's always cool. I love exchanging with people. Um, but above that, I would not say that I have now a great message here. So we will not have more sales by announcing any message here. It's just I love talking to you. The information exchange was great. Yeah, and if someone wants to know more, just reach out via LinkedIn.
You heard that, people. I also love talking to you. And he's right. I can attest to how you replied to me on LinkedIn that you do like talking to people. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
that is a rare thing to find because I sometimes invite people on the show and you get all sorts of responses. Yours was great. So, Jörg, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Was a pleasure.
Was the pleasure was all mine. And people, remember, subscribe on YouTube, very important. Hit the like button, also very important. And support the show on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Music. The more you support the show, the better the show gets. Ah. So this was the Tech of Tomorrow podcast with Sebastian Hidalgo. I am Sebastian Hidalgo, and Jörg Hensen. He's been here with us, gave us his time to teach us about this industry. Thank you for listening. Again, thanks, Jörg. And I'll see you people in the next episode.